Hello, my name is Woody. This is Change in the House of Pods, a podcast about Deftones. Today, my guest is Rick Kosick. Rick is the photographer who took the photo for the cover of Deftones' second album, Around the Fur, as well as some of the most well-known pictures of the band from their early years with Maverick Records. He's going to talk about a couple of those photos today, and a few more of his experiences with the band, meeting them the first time, skating on the ramp in their rehearsal space, the spot, regular stuff, you know. Rick's well known for his work on MTV's Jackass, and even before that, the skateboarding photography he did for Big Brother magazine. You will hear a story or two from Jackass and Wild Boys today. You'll also hear Rick talk about being in the studio with Deftones during the making of Ohms, which is pretty amazing. Rick and I had this conversation in November, which is kind of crazy, and it will provide some context for a couple moments in the conversation. Next week, I'll have another photographer on the podcast with me, Christian Castillo. He's also the guitarist of Gulch, one of the sickest bands in the world right now. After that, I'll be joined by Joe Riley from the podcast Musically Meditated, the OG Deftones podcast, and Sly Massmeyer, perhaps the world's most beloved Deftones fan. In case you missed it, Sly and I celebrated the kickoff of Season 2 on Instagram together. He's got an amazing collection of Deftones releases, so he showed me a few of his coolest cassettes on Instagram. I'm at Woodbruh if you want to watch that conversation, WOODBRUH. You can also see the live taste test I did with my buddy Miguel on my birthday last weekend. He and I shared a toast and drank the new Deftones tequila from Abre Ojos. And I'll tell you right now, it was special. I was a little bit lit, not going to lie. Change in the House of Pods is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, pretty much everywhere. Please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And hit me up if you want to talk about Deftones. I certainly do. Well, this is the first episode of this podcast with a Brad Pitt story, and that's pretty damn cool. This is my conversation with Rick Kosick.
When I was introduced to the Deftones music, I had a friend from high school that used to work at Maverick Records when they were still attached to that part of the label. And she was like, oh my God, you got to hear this band. They're great. They love skateboarding. They like BMX. And I think you'll totally dig them. And she gave me this cassette tape, and it had like 2 songs on it. And I was like, yeah, cool. Just threw it in the car. It sat there for a few months, honestly. And then I finally put it in, and I was like, whoa, this is fucking pretty cool, man. And from there, the introduction happened. They would come into Hollywood and they play all these little clubs that no longer exist. And, we just, struck it off, a conversation, and just one thing led to another, and I think we just kind of, had the same interest in things, as skateboarding and, obviously BMX too, because that's pretty cool. And I don't know, it just kind of, at the time, it worked.
You met them at a show? That was how you actually, you just met them at a show? That's how you got to know the guys?
Yeah, but by introduction. Yeah, through this girl that worked at Maverick Records, and they were signed to them at that time, or Warner, whatever you want to call it. And so they were fans of the magazine Big Brother that I was attached to. And so the skateboard culture, everyone kind of just somehow works together, and they like what I was doing, and then I like what they're doing, so we just became friends,
That's so rad.
It was that simple, back then, and it still could be like things like that happen today, It's just, it was fun.
I never really associate Deftones with skateboard culture, even though I've seen, Chino skateboard, and I've seen obviously plenty of your work, and yet I still don't picture them. What do you think? What's the cross section of Deftones and skateboard culture? Do skaters listen to Deftones? What do you think about that?
I think so. I think definitely skateboarders would probably listen to Deftones because it's loud music, it's hard driven, and it just works, and it's if someone was to put on a fucking kick-ass Black Sabbath song, fucking drop in the bowl, and same thing with the Deftones riff, and some people probably get hyped, and they want to do their contest run to a good jam, and so why not be a song from Around the Fur, or back then it would have been Adrenaline, and so I think it would work. I think, why not? Skaters could definitely like the Deftones, and Deftones like skateboarding because they're into it too. They actually had a ramp at their studio.
You ever drop in on it? You ever ride it?
I think I did. Yeah. At times I got to the point where I was so more focused on photography and like I didn't want to take the risk of falling down and getting hurt because I kept at one point, like later on, I was doing this TV show called Wild Boys, and this is funny. And this is when I definitely just like finally put like I am never doing this ever again. So I was skating on during the TV show. Sorry, this is to drift off, but I kept like we're at a skate park, you know, in Brazil, and I'm like, oh my god, we're messing around for a little bit. I tried dropping on something, and I would slam so hard. There was one time we're in Manaus, Brazil, and I hit the ground and I fucking bounced and I cracked a rib. I was in so much pain. And the last time I did anything with the skateboard remotely, we're at this skate pool, backyard pool at the Pink Motel pool in San Fernando Valley. And to me, it was like the biggest dream. Like, oh my God, I've always wanted to skate this, but I never could because I was photographing it. And there's like all these insane professionals there. And I was like, you get intimidated. So I was like skating around. I did this big carve, like I was flowing pretty well. And then I didn't realize the transition changed so quick. So I did this big carve to coming into a flat wall, and I just slammed, and it felt like my body shattered 1,000 pieces, and I felt like I laid there for eternity on the bottom of the pool, and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, man, that's a dangerous game. That's like skating it's tough. I was never able to do it. Like I just never. I think also, I live in Minneapolis, so it's not actually a conducive environment to skating. I mean, there's ice on the ground outside of my house right now, so it's not something that you can do 12 months of the year.
But they have like the X Games out there and stuff, don't they?
Oh yeah. The X Games have been out here for the past few years. Well, obviously not this past year, but
right.
And they're great, and it's amazing. I've been every year actually, and I mean the best athletes in the world. Really, those people are athletes, man. You got to be like in excellent shape to do that.
And like to see the where the sport has come from then to where it is now. I was just watching on YouTube like the X Games the other day, and like BMX is so gnarly. Like I'm just so fascinated. Like, how do these guys do like this, all these flips and then just go for the big ramp and hopefully do like a big trick and just like without killing themselves, The same with skateboarding too, and like I just so much respect to it.
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense, especially the big air, the big ramp stuff. Like that makes me genuinely like nervous. Like I feel it in my stomach, like, oh man, nope.
I think deep down, I think Chino really wanted to be a professional skateboarder.
You think so? What makes you say that?
Because he loved it so much. I remember there's a photo I still have, and it's so funny. It's just how weird things kind of catch up with itself. And, I live in the neighborhood where at once upon a time where Maverick Records used to be like walking distance. And there was this photo of Chino cracking an ollie on the sidewalk, with Chi sitting on the grass watching, and just he was so into it, and it's just something about free spirit about skateboarding, and it's creative just as long as it is with music too, and like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand. It's fun.
Did you take a lot of photos of them prior to the release of Adrenaline, or
I did
after?
There's actually a photo in Adrenaline. It's probably like this tiny. It's like it's inside inside there. So that's probably why I got credited on the record and said thanks or whatever. I got 2 gold records right there on my wall.
Really?
Yeah, I'll show you. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's rad.
yeah, I remember got this cool package at the office when I was working at Big Brother. I'm like, wow, what is this? And I was shocked. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Opening up in front of everyone, and they're all like, everyone was kind of jealous. I'm like, fuck yeah, look at this. I got gold records for my work. Look at this, like,
yeah.
I'm super proud of that. I look at it every day. I'm like, yeah, man, that's pretty cool.
It is really cool. When I talked to Frank Maddox, he called it like an iconic cover. it's so unique, and it's unique to their catalog, like all of their covers. It's very singular in that way. The first two I feel like are very different than the others.
I don't understand what the snot sucker thing is all about.
I asked about it. I asked Frank Maddox for help about that, actually, because I didn't understand it either. He suggested that it was a moment in their lives when this item, which you used to suck snot out of babies' noses,
Yeah.
all of a sudden became useful. So it's kind of reflective of what was going on in their lives. I don't know if that's true or not. I still think it's just the most bizarre of all of them, of all of their album covers.
It's kind of described that we're infant rock stars or something. Like it's the birth. It's like I guess if I look at it now, it's like, yeah, we're babies, like infant rock stars, and we still need to have this help to breathe, and which is kind of symbolic and cool, and then the second cover is this hot looking girl, and then it's like, we're out of the gates, guys. Let's put some hot chick on the cover, like.
Did you see that somebody found her? She was just recently on Twitter. It must have been the anniversary of the release of the album or something, because it was on Twitter where they found her. She's living somewhere, and I don't know. I don't remember. She was like, she was friends with Steph apparently, and she was like, yeah, I want to reach out to him. And I don't know. You didn't catch any of that? See when they found her?
Oh my God, I wonder what she looks like. Probably a mom of 5 kids now.
She looks the same, honestly. She looks the same, but older, obviously.
I think I pitched an idea one day. I was at a concert and saw the band. I go, hey, we should do let's go back and recreate the album cover. And she was like, no, I was joking, but I mean, kind of joke. That's how things happen when you're just joking, and I thought it'd be kind of funny.
It would be pretty funny. I don't know if she'd be into it. I think at this point, she'd
probably I'd never do it, but I just think. Oh my goodness.
So I know you've told the story of that night before, but would you tell me about that night and capturing that image?
Yeah, that night was pretty much, they had me come up to Seattle when they were working on the record, and everyone was just hanging out at the house in the pool area, late nights, partying, and I was just kind of just walk around with my camera, being a nerd, taking photos, and the technique I shot that is it's called bulb. So you have all these different manual and stuff, but I have my flash in my hand. It's not connected to the camera. And so I hit the shutter, and so it's going, and then I hit the flash, and I only took 2 photos, and one of the photos landed the cover. That's it.
That's wild. It's such a moment in time, really, right? That's literally a moment in time.
And I remember somebody throughout the years, some guys had all these questions because he thought it was so this orchestrated idea and a big ass production. And I just told him that story. And he goes, "Oh, I had all these questions," and he was all bummed. Oh, it was just sorry, dude. It's just 2 photos, man. I got lucky, and that's it.
I wonder too about Jackass. Did the guys ever do Jackass? Did Deftones ever make an appearance on? Did it ever come up?
No, never. I think as far as with music and Jackass, it's always been kind of a song that really works with the visual, kind of maybe if it's a country song, because it's Knoxville's really into old school country, and we all old school punk rock, and so it's kind of that's the same vein. And I think the new metal era of music has never really worked as much as I would think it'd be great. It just doesn't necessarily jive with everyone else, but it's unfortunate. But
well, I guess I meant more so in having any of the guys on the show, because there were guests all the time, and different people skating and.
Yeah, you know what? I just think it's just time, and it just never worked. I don't know. It just never worked out, And
yeah,
I remember towards the last season of Jackass, the TV show, we were having all these big celebrity guests coming through because it was such a weird phenomenon that they're like, hey, we got to be on the show too, you know? And so there'd be like a cameo of Gene Simmons, or, you know, we got lucky. We had Brad Pitt on the show, and actually probably filmed one of the most iconic bits ever where we abducted him from Pink's Hot Dogs here in Hollywood.
You
Like
abducted him?
Yeah. So we made it. He was like standing in line ordering food, and he's like, and Brad Pitt was the nicest man you could ever imagine. Like he's just super cool with everyone. Like, oh, Brad Pitt, no way, you know. And this van comes pulling up, and I'm like sitting there like down the street just a little bit with my camera out. And back then, no one even thought twice of that kind of shit. So when the van comes up, and they're like, "Hey, Brad Pitt," and all of a sudden they just grabbed him, pulled him in the van, and he was screaming, and then like, and everyone was freaking out, and the van just took off, you know, and that was the Brad Pitt abduction.
Oh my gosh. I remembered the one with him in disguise, like when the guys were running around like where they were like gorillas or something like that. They were
Yeah,
all running around. I remembered that one. I don't recall the I
that was
didn't
the
recall the night, what was it called?
night monkey.
The Night Monkey. That's God, I wish I could have like binge watched all of those episodes before I got to speak with you today. Because man, I watched them over and over and over, like a lot of kids did when were teenagers. And
I don't even think you can find like the Brad Pitt abduction anywhere. I think there was a clause. It was allowed to run once, and then they just gone. And like honestly, like the first season of Jackass, so much of the stuff we filmed was so against the law of production. We didn't know production laws, and so we're like, oh yeah, we'll just jump over this fence and go into the LA River ditch, and we'll shoot this thing, and not thinking like we're cool. And nope. So it's like, yeah, we broke a lot of rules because we didn't know what we were doing. But that's the charm of the show, you know. Like
that's that's an interesting way to put it. That's the charm of the show. I've never, first of all, thought about Jackass as being charming. It was always much stronger than charming, but you're right. But you're still, nonetheless, I think you're absolutely right. There is a charm to it in that way. Like that's
yeah, it's kind of like you're with you and your buddies, and we're kind of like we're with you, and it's kind of like your friends. You can do it, you know. It's not just us. You can do it too, you know. So it kind of has that rough look to it. Nowadays, it's a lot more polished and big production, and it's still fun though.
That's something that has occurred to me about Deftones in particular is because I've been asking this question, and I think it's been how I've been asking it is the wrong way to ask it. I've been asking, like, how do they last so long? Like, how have they maintained a success as a band? And that always seems to draw this answer about, well, they're buds, and I don't think anybody would just quit because they're all buds. But in my search for the secret in the sauce or whatever, I feel like they're like what you just said is sort of the truth about the secret in the sauce. Like they're just dudes making music together to a certain degree. Would you agree?
I think so, and I got to go to the studio when they were making their recent album. They were here in Hollywood at I think it's the Jim Henson studio. And the day I went, I don't want to go too many times because I don't want to bug them. They're working, they're trying to make good stuff, and they killed it on this record, I feel, And so, but just going there to see it and just being there like trying to be a fly on the wall, and just watching a little bit of the process, it's so cool, and they're so lucky to be able to do this still. It's like, I'm like, fuck, man, what is this, their 9th record?
Yeah.
God dang, that's incredible. Most bands don't even get a second chance, and they're still just maintaining it. And it's what's another great moment of like, you see these little moments of like, okay, they're doing something great. Is I got to go to the concert here in Pasadena. There's a little festival curated by Robert Smith of The Cure.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. Forgive me for what it's called. Daydream. And it's called Daydream. Yeah. And just to be there, to see, I was standing on the side of the stage, to see just thousands of people watching him. I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. incredible. You know, like people dig these guys. You know, and but I just don't understand how they've never had that super hit. You know, like a Limp Bizkit. Forgive me for saying that. Or a Corn, you know, and like just something that really puts them to the next top, you know, of level of success. But I guess they're still a strong machine, you know. They're like a good machine, and they're still putting out great music after all these years, you know. And I really like the new record a lot. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I love it. I think it. I always hate like ranking them or trying to. It's fun to try to do, but I can never like. I get so frustrated with myself because I'm like, oh well, but what about that one? Well, that one's definitely one of your favorites. But like, I think I can very easily say Ohms is my favorite. It's like it's great. It's great and phenomenal for the reason that you mentioned, that they've just been doing it for so long, and you know their masterwork is 6 albums ago. You know, obviously all of the things that they've been through as a band to be able to arrive still and completely knock it out of the park is,
Yeah,
it's insane.
there's you could tell like on some songs. At first, I was a little thrown by it. I was like, whoa, okay, let me sit back, let me put the headphones on, and I'm going to kick back and I'll listen to it like a record, like you're supposed to, you know. Like the first song, I'm like, okay, it starts off a little eerie, you know. I'm like, it's pretty cool, and all of a sudden, the bam, it just fucking hits you. And like, I've been wanting to ask Abe because I really feel like he really helped write that riff with Stefan.
What makes
You
you
know,
say that?
Stefan's more of a metal guy, and you could tell. So if you listen to the timing of the beat, it's really going with the riff, you know? And so I'm really fascinated. I'm like, wow, because like that's not a normal drum beat, like that 1, 2, you know, it's like if you listen to it, you'll hear it, you know? And like, so I feel like those two were really working together and created that, you know? And so, and somehow that, you know, I don't know their chemistry fully of writing music, but you know, I've been around a few times to see, you know, at work, and, but, it just, I thought it was a great song. Genesis, I think it's great. I love it. And I like Pompeii a lot too.
I think Spell of Mathematics is my favorite. They're just
Really?
vibing out, like snapping at the end. You know what I mean? Like there's just this. There's so many moments like across the album that are just so great. I could probably change my mind here in a minute and pick a different favorite song. Radiant City is just so amazing to me. Yeah,
Okay.
it's phenomenal. Just the whole thing, and they're doing so many things that they haven't really done before, like that. It
Yeah.
just that I haven't heard on records previously.
And when I was at the studio, they were working on the song Error.
What do you remember about that?
That session that they just kept like putting, the thing I remember, they kept putting new bass strings on the guitar and doing it over and doing it over. And like, I'm like, how many times you guys got to change the strings? You know, like, you know, these are things I don't understand in recording process. And, but it's just that part of that riff is like, it sounds like a Led Zeppelin kind of, you know. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool, you know. Like I'm digging this. It's but yeah, it's a process, man. It's a lot of work to record an album. And I wonder if there got anything else in the can that didn't make the record, you know.
Yeah, I've heard that they always, or for a while, were always doing a couple of covers when they would record, just to do it. But I don't know. I think it's been a few albums since that's happened. You know, you always hope to hear something else, something new. Obviously, with the remix album, that's a thing that they've been working on, which is cool to look forward to as well. But you
I
know,
just I just listened to that Passenger last night, and I really liked it a lot. It's cool. Like I like electronic music too, you know. And
yeah, it really is. It's like if Tool and Deftones and Linkin Park did a song together. Like that's what it sounds like, you know?
yeah, pretty much.
Which
Yeah.
is cool. It's cool with me. And I do wonder though, like are they taking this time, you know, obviously they put out some music, but you got to imagine that every artist is creating to some extent in this downtime.
Yeah, I really hope that they're like somehow like, all right, we got to plan this out. We need to do this, and just keep them the momentum, you know, because I worry that not enough people know about this record, you know, and or say for any artist, you know, and it's a really good record, but you know, I really think the Deftones are a touring act.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to see them live. They always kill it. They have great songs. They have unlimited library of great music. So I think it probably was a setback, unfortunately, with the COVID to come out with a record and then you can't go on tour.
Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks being a fan too. You know what I mean? It's like, God, all I want to do is see my favorite band live, hear the new songs live. And I've heard that doing the live stream stuff is like really expensive to do it right. And who knows if that's on the table. But yeah, it would be nice. I wonder, do you know, like, who are Deftones fans that you know? Who do you talk about Deftones with? Like, who do you know that is into? Who on Jackass was into Deftones?
I don't think anyone on Jackass is in the Deftones more than me.
Yeah, more than you. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate. I'm not sure. It's interesting. I mean, maybe I'll find someone wearing a shirt in the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, cool, you like Deftones, and I don't know, man. I just hope they're reaching a new audience. I think that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
They had their billboard down the street from me here in Hollywood, and it was really cool to see it up in the killer location right there on Fairfax, and the parking lot where Cantor's is. And I'm thinking, like, that's incredible. They got a billboard out supporting this new album, and hopefully it's reaching a whole new audience and kids, that a new generation of Deftone fans.
Yeah, that's why I ask, because it does seem like they have built their fan base from touring and just being out there, because once you see them, it's like it's a wrap, right? I mean, you gotta dig into their catalog if you haven't, as soon as you see them.
Yeah.
But I've always been, and it's part of the reason, like, I started this podcast, none of my close friends, until I started working at the radio station, I didn't really know other people that listened to Deftones. So it was always an exciting thing to, like, see somebody out in the street, if they had a Deftones shirt, it's like, oh, right away, that's family. You know what I mean? Like, that's a cool thing. So when you get that opportunity, I feel like, to connect with other Deftones fans, it's like a standout thing.
What's really cool about their fans is the fact that they'll go as far as putting ink on their body to show their love for their music. And man, it's awesome when they'll probably sing like, hey, show us your ink, it's like, and you're like, man, these people are down, and they get some great looking tattoos and just to show their love and support. And like, it's incredible. Like, that's loyalty.
I saw a guy at the Dia de los Deftones, the second one, with like his whole sleeve and maybe even like his leg portraits, like huge portraits, like really beautiful black and white portraits of each member of the band. And I was like, wow, like that dude, he dedicated his limbs and probably like tens of thousands of dollars for those portraits. Insane.
That's incredible. That's why they're a legacy. Like, they're going to keep going on, I think, and I think they got a few more records, I would imagine at least, let's just say 7 more records. So keep working, guys.
7. That's a good number. I think 7.
Why not 7 more, and they might slow down a little bit as time goes on, but yeah, man, it's great.
What are your favorites?
My favorite albums?
Yeah.
I like Around the Fur was really special, obvious. White Pony, I probably think, is their best record. And what's the one with the skull and roses?
Yeah, that's self-titled.
Yeah, self-titled. There's some really good gems on there. And I really like this new one. I think my least favorite, if I was going to say it, but I don't like saying that, but the one before they just put out.
Gore.
Yeah. I like the cover. The cover was cool looking. But it was awesome. I love that artwork. It was just, I don't know. I don't feel like it was like, there's some missing elements, I don't know what it was, but.
Yeah, there's been plenty of suggestions about that. I like that album a lot, though. For some reason, it still really connects with me. I don't know. Everybody's got their own favorites. It's cool to hear them and to talk about them. What about your favorite covers, though? Album covers?
I like the one with the girls coming up through the water. It looks like it's a tabletop art, it's because it's got like some like weird, like it looks like, watermarks on it. I don't know what the name of the record is.
Yeah, that's
You know,
Saturday Night Wrist. Yeah.
yeah, that's I really like that record a lot. That's a cool album cover. And I think that's probably like one of my favorites. I really like that shot. I like how that looks. Did Frank Murdoch's put that one together?
Yeah, Frank Magazine. And it's they're images put together from a film. I think it's like a 70s porno or something like that. I'm probably missing it. It's in my podcast. You can hear exactly what it is in the last episode of my podcast.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a cool one. That's a cool one too. It's taken me a long time, I think, to even see all of the images fully on that album. Like you really have to get into it, I think, to see everything that's going on and like how many, like her eyes are like in the background and like what you think at first glance is just black. It's her eye
Right.
is actually back. It's a trip. It's a trippy one to look at for sure.
Yeah, that's to me. I really like that one, and I like the self-titled with the skull and roses. The simplicity to it, it's so cool looking to me. I just like that kind of artwork. Oh wow! Now I know what you're saying. Wow, there is another image of another woman in there.
Yeah.
Oh, now I see the eye. Yeah, and there's another girl behind her shoulder. Yeah, that's pretty cool looking. I like that album. That's a good album cover right there.
Would you listen to Deftones? Which is the album that you go to?
It just depends on where I'm at. Right now I've been just visiting the new one a lot, and I like hearing the different nuances of each song and the weird layering, and it might throw me back to like, oh, that kind of reminds me of this song from this record, or but right now, but I just really enjoy the new record a lot.
Yeah,
That's my go-to.
that's cool. And how many times do you think you've seen them over the years around town? You said in LA when they started off. I'm sure there had to be a bunch even
Uh,
then.
I want to say at least over 20 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that too much? Is
No,
that is
no.
probably there's a lot of times I'll be like, hey, I know they were coming through town, and I'm like, hey, don't know if I get on a list, and they're like, yeah, sure, but also I'm like, hey, I can't make it. Give my ticket to someone else, and they'd be super appreciative of me saying that, so they don't waste a ticket on me not showing up. So that's happened a few times, but I've never been to their festival, unfortunately.
Oh, the festival is really rad. It's cool to have that many Deftones fans in one place for sure. But then the setting and in the middle of downtown San Diego it's a really unique experience. It's cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, just I haven't been able to go to that, and maybe in a couple years we'll be able to do that, right? It won't be
Yeah.
this year, but or the new year. Who knows? And yeah, this
Yeah.
weird world we're living in right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty shitty.
Yeah,
The absence of live music, especially. Do you remember seeing anything really wild happen at a Deftones show?
nothing more than like maybe Chino crowd surfing, or you know, like in the early days, like he would climb up something high and then fly off into the crowd, but he doesn't do that anymore.
No, he's a little older, a little wiser.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, it was crazy. I remember I saw them at a Warp Tour in Carson. It's an area of California, and I shot this photo and I put it on motor sequence, and I just because the stage was pretty high up, like I had to really like get up, kind of because I'm like 6'1", so the stage is a little taller than me, and so but I did it, and I just right at this right time, and he comes barreling and like this it just created this really cool image of like the cord flying through the air, and it ended up being like a post, like kind of like a billboard in Hollywood area. It's kind of a sort of a cool iconic moment of Deftones history. I'm sure you might have seen it, where he kind of looks like Rollins in a way, like it would be like a Henry Rollins moment, like really intense, and just you can tell you're just in the midst of like going screaming, and the mic cable is flying in the air, and he's flying down to the monitor, and
Man,
pretty
I want to say it's this image. I should probably screen share it with you. Is it because this is gonna look horrible on the. Is it that
That's
one?
it. Yep, that's it. Yeah.
That's so cool that you took that photo.
Yeah.
I love that photo. I think that I've been seeing that a lot more lately. That's cool as hell to know that it's yours.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just, got that out of a shooting a sequence, and that's kind of luck. It's a lucky moment, It's like you can't plan that.
Is that your favorite Deftones photo that you've taken?
I think for live, yeah, I think it would probably be my favorite. Definitely, I like it a lot. It's just so energetic and just,
Oh man, I mean, you can feel the movement. You can feel, I mean, it feels like he's shooting out of a barrel, like right at you. You know what I mean?
right, yeah, with his screaming voice, man, just barreling down, coming at you like a freight train.
That's cool as shit. And I love hearing about being in the studio with them. Have you had that opportunity often?
Not too much because I sort of respect the process, and I would because like when we're making Jackass stuff, we don't really want anyone come around. It's just kind of one of those things like when you're working, and I respect that with them too. Let me plug on my computer. So I was really grateful for the times that allowed me to come through, but it's just like I get it, man. I don't want to bug them. It's cool to see a little bit of the process and just to be like I said, like in the last record, they're at Jim Henson Studios, and they're actually in the room that Carole King used to work in. It's legendary. When you walk around this property, you're like, man, who has been here? Like it's a legendary studio in Hollywood. And so I think Bieber was actually working in one of the other studios around right down the hallway from them.
Did you peek in?
No. They had total security guards everywhere. It's like you can't. There's no way. So you got Bieber down the hallway, and you got Deftones over here, and it's cool, man. Like they're all part of it,
Yeah.
Different genres.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that has always been sort of an element about the band, is that they are consumers of other music, and to sort of hear them like being across the hall from Justin Bieber sounds like normal. You know what I mean? It just sounds like they'd probably collab even. Like I could see that. I could see Bieber on a Deftones track.
Maybe he can teach them all a little dance routine, like.
Or maybe the other way around. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I think Bieber on an Abe beat would be pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin Bieber can play drums, right?
Can he? I don't know. That hasn't come up on this podcast before.
I think I've heard that he can play drums.
No shit.
Yeah.
They should have had a drum off then. I don't know what.
Man, that'd be amazing. I think Abe would win.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Abe.
I don't think it's a contest. Not at all. So one of the things that I've been asking people to contribute to this podcast is a recommendation. Well, actually, 3 recommendations. This is inspired by something Chino said on a podcast that he only tweets out YouTube links to music that he likes because he feels like that's the coolest shit that he could contribute to Twitter anyways. So in that spirit, can you recommend, put me on to 3 things. It's wide open, old, new, could be anything from a photographer that you really like, or a photograph, or it could be a skater, anything.
My thing is I really like going to movies. And I actually live walking distance from Quentin Tarantino's movie theater called the New Beverly. And before the pandemic hit, I go there once a week, so that's one recommendation. If you're ever in Hollywood, you got to go see, when this crap is all said and done, you got to go to the New Beverly movie theater and experience it, because I've been there and they do so much cool stuff unannounced. You have to be a movie fan, and all of a sudden, boom, something's going to happen. You're unexpected. You're like, this is happening? Holy crap. Now I'll tell you one right now. I'm a fan. I love the Blues Brothers movie. Okay. But growing up, I never saw it in the theater. I was too young. So I only saw it on television. So I'm like, all right, they're going to do a midnight screening of the Blues Brothers. I'm going to go. I'm there. And I get there, and the guy comes out and makes an announcement like, hey, everyone, thanks for coming, and talks about the movie, the theater. And hey, we got a little surprise for you. And they announced Quentin Tarantino's going to come out, and everyone's like, yeah, cheering. Quentin comes out, he's all hyperactive and excited, like how he is, He goes, hey, I got a surprise for all of you. And he goes, I'm going to bring out the person who wrote this movie, Dan Aykroyd. And everyone just fucking loses their mind and jumps up out of their seats and like, holy moly. And Quentin and Dan stayed and watched the movie with everyone.
Wow. That's cool as hell.
I know, right? And like, who does that? And those are the little perks you get if you go to the New Beverly Theater. They do that all the time. I've seen so many great impromptu moments that they don't announce.
That's incredible. That's so cool.
And they show all these amazing old films. Like you can't, and it's all projected in film too. So that's what's even cooler about it. They don't show digital, only film.
I guess when you're going to the theater that's run by like the world's most well-known cinephile, like it's probably some cool shit that goes on, right? Yeah.
And another recommendation I like a lot is stand-up comedy. And I love the aspect of someone who can control a room and take you on a journey with just the words, And it's like, there's so many times I've gone to the Comedy Store here in Hollywood, and I'm just like, how does this guy do this? This is incredible. He's so good with crowd work, and he knows how to pick on one part, pull one person and starts talking to him, and next you're on a journey with this guy. It just blows me away, and it's just so yeah, stand up. Definitely go to the Comedy Store. Go to the New Beverly Theater. And for the third, is there a third? I got to throw in a third.
One more recommendation.
Dang it. Those have been my two big go-tos lately. Is just because
you can always plug something you're doing. You could always plug your own projects.
My projects are not ready to be plugged yet. I've actually got a couple shows I'm developing. They're not ready, but how about it? I'm just grateful for you giving me the opportunity to speak in your podcast.
Okay, do you remember a few years ago, 2015 actually, when Chino said he was a fan of Justin Bieber? Specifically, he said he liked the song What Do You Mean? That's off Bieber's album Purpose, the one with Sorry and Love Yourself. That album slaps, I don't even care. I wonder, does Bieber dig Deftones? I don't have strong feelings about Justin Bieber one way or the other, but I can tell you this, if Biebs digs Deftones, he is my people. My thanks to Rick Kosick for kicking it with me. I really was blown away by the thought of being in the studio during the making of Ohms. That is so cool. I am genuinely fascinated by Deftones' creative process, like all aspects of it. How they work, how these songs come together, how the albums come together. It was really cool to put myself in Rick's shoes and imagine that, just being a fly on the wall during the making of Headless. That's truly amazing. It was also really cool to have my suspicions confirmed and learn that Brad Pitt is a nice man. That was also lovely to hear. Change in the House of Pods is available all over. If you got a friend who listens to Deftones, please put them onto the podcast. If you don't have any friends who listen to Deftones, please put your friends onto Deftones. My name is Woody. I'll be back next week with Christian from Gulch. Thank you for listening to Deftones, and thank you for listening to Change in the House of Pods.